December 31, 1991. The red flag with the hammer and sickle is lowered over the Kremlin for the last time. A global superpower, an empire that spanned nearly a century and a sixth of the world's landmass, simply ceased to exist. But how did this colossal state rise, and what led to its dramatic fall? To understand, we have to go back to the turn of the 20th century. The Russian Empire, ruled by Tsar Nicholas II, was a giant with feet of clay. The disastrous Russo-Japanese War of 1904 exposed its weakness, sparking widespread unrest. The people were desperate for change. Fast forward to 1917, World War I had bled the nation dry. In February, massive protests in Petrograd forced the Tsar to abdicate, ending centuries of Romanov rule. A provisional government took over, but it was weak and unstable. This created a power vacuum, and one man was ready to fill it: Vladimir Lenin. In October 1917, Lenin and his Bolshevik party seized power in a swift coup, promising peace, land, and bread. What followed was anything but peaceful. A brutal civil war erupted between the Bolsheviks, Red Army, and the anti-communist White Army. The conflict tore the country apart, claiming millions of lives through combat, famine, and disease. By 1922, the Bolsheviks had emerged victorious, and they officially established the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR. The world's first communist state was born. After Lenin's death in 1924, a power struggle ensued. The man who emerged on top was Joseph Stalin, a name that would become synonymous with absolute power and terror. Stalin was determined to transform the Soviet Union from an agrarian society into an industrial superpower, and he would do it at any cost. His 5-year plans forced rapid industrialization. Factories and cities sprang up, but the human price was staggering. He implemented collectivization, forcing millions of peasants onto state-run farms. This policy led to catastrophic famines, especially in Ukraine, known as the Holodomor, where millions starved to death. Stalin's paranoia knew no bounds. In the 1930s, he unleashed the Great Purge, a wave of political repression that targeted anyone deemed an enemy of the state. Old Bolsheviks, military leaders, intellectuals, and ordinary citizens were arrested, sent to Gulag labor camps, or executed. Millions vanished into the abyss of Stalin's totalitarian machine. The Soviet Union became a society gripped by fear, where a single wrong word could mean a death sentence. Then, in 1941, came the ultimate test. Despite a non-aggression pact, Nazi Germany launched a surprise invasion, Operation Barbarossa. This began what the Soviets called the Great Patriotic War. The initial onslaught was devastating, with German forces pushing deep into Soviet territory. But the Soviet people, despite their suffering under Stalin, rallied to defend their motherland. The battles of Stalingrad and Kursk became legendary turning points where the Red Army, at an almost unimaginable human cost, halted the Nazi advance and began to push them back. The war was a crucible of horror and heroism. The Soviet Union suffered more casualties than any other nation in World War II, with estimates ranging from 20 to 27 million dead. Entire cities were reduced to rubble. Yet, in May 1945, it was the Soviet flag that was raised over the Reichstag in Berlin. The USSR had not only survived, but had emerged as one of the world's two superpowers, its influence now stretching across Eastern Europe. The end of the war did not bring peace. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new kind of conflict, the Cold War. The world was divided into two camps: the capitalist West, led by the United States, and the communist East, led by the Soviet Union. An Iron Curtain, as Winston Churchill famously called it, descended across Europe. This was a war of ideologies, of espionage, and of proxy conflicts fought across the globe, from Korea to Vietnam to Afghanistan. Both sides built up massive nuclear arsenals, creating a terrifying balance known as mutually assured destruction. The constant threat of nuclear annihilation hung over the world. Yet, amid the tension, there was also a race for the heavens. The space race became a key front in the Cold War. The Soviets scored early victories, launching Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, in 1957, and sending Yuri Gagarin, the first human into space, in 1961. These achievements were immense sources of national pride and powerful propaganda tools. The world held its breath during moments of extreme tension, like the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, when the US and USSR came perilously close to nuclear war over Soviet missiles placed in Cuba. It was the closest the world ever came to Armageddon. After Stalin's death, leaders like Nikita Khrushchev tried to de-Stalinize the country, but the fundamental nature of the one-party state remained. The era of Leonid Brezhnev in the 70s and early 80s is often called the era of stagnation. The economy, burdened by massive military spending and central planning, began to falter. Life for the average Soviet citizen was characterized by long lines, shortages of basic goods, and a lack of personal freedom. The system was rotting from within. The disastrous war in Afghanistan, which began in 1979, became the Soviet Union's Vietnam, a costly, demoralizing quagmire that drained resources and morale. By the mid-1980s, it was clear that something had to change. In 1985, a younger, more dynamic leader came to power, Mikhail Gorbachev. He introduced two radical policies: glasnost, or openness, which allowed for greater freedom of speech and criticism of the government, and perestroika, or restructuring, aimed at reforming the stagnant economy. Gorbachev's goal was not to destroy the Soviet Union, but to save it, to revitalize socialism. But these reforms were like opening a pressure valve. Decades of pent-up frustrations and nationalist sentiments came flooding out. The people, given a taste of freedom, wanted more. The satellite states in Eastern Europe, one by one, broke away from Soviet control, culminating in the symbolic fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. Inside the USSR itself, the various republics began demanding independence. The final act came in August 1991. Hardline communists, horrified by Gorbachev's reforms, staged a coup to restore the old order. But the people of Moscow, led by Boris Yeltsin, poured into the streets to defend their newfound freedoms. The coup collapsed in 3 days, but it fatally weakened Gorbachev's authority and shattered the remaining power of the central government. The republics declared independence in rapid succession. And so, on Christmas Day 1991, Mikhail Gorbachev resigned as president of a country that no longer existed. The following day, the Soviet Union was formally dissolved. The epic, tumultuous, and often tragic 70-year experiment came to a quiet end. From the revolution's fire to the Cold War's ice, the story of the Soviet Union is a monumental chapter in human history, a powerful reminder of how ideologies can shape the destinies of millions and change the face of the world. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this history fascinating, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. See you next time.